All right, so welcome to Human Design and Mental Health. Little investigation. I don't claim to be an expert on the subject here by any means. It's an experiment and an investigation and seeing what we can see here. The deeper I started to look into this, one, it's just a very vast subject. And you talk about mental health, you could be talking about anything. It's a very, very wide spectrum of mental health and how it's connected to our body, mind, spirit. It's connected on so many levels. And in terms of looking into the body graph or any, wherever we look into this in the system or in the body graph, I think it's a shared opinion that no mental illness can be pinpointed to one thing, one place necessarily. I mean, we can look for commonalities, but there's you always have to look at the whole being. It's you always have to look at the quantum of the being, and so from also just looking all over the place on online and some studying, I think everyone feels mostly the same way, that there's some things that we can pinpoint, but a lot of it is just going to be an individual case by case, and usually multi-layered, and tying in the conditioning and the development of the beings. There's a lot to look at, but let's look at those things. And so I was going to just start with looking at some specific charts, but then as I was preparing this, I was thinking, why don't we just go through the system? Let's go through the body graph and see all the places where there can be a distortion. I was a pathology teacher for a few years, and it's the perfect job for a 3-5 because you learn about how the body works by learning when it doesn't work. I mean, that's how science has learned over the years, is when it's not working, and it shows you how it should work. So it's a very 3-5 kind of thing, seeing how it's not working and seeing how it can be, inform how it can work even better practically. So I thought we'd just go through the system and see it that way. So again, this isn't a big production here. I just kind of threw all this together today. So but looking at the lines, if you look at a profile, or even you can look at it just as the lines or as the profile, but either in any case, first lines, have, until they feel a foundation, they'll feel insecure, or feel that the insecurity and the fear, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, it's not afraid necessarily. It's just aware that they haven't experienced something directly. So forcing a first line to do something that they haven't mastered. They're here to be authorities. So putting a first line into a position of being an authority can be very uncomfortable for them. Second lines, I mean, I could actually teach a whole class just on this page right here. How does, your it would probably be more like your personality line, but personality line or profile get distorted, so second line, so 2 4s or 2 5s being forced out of their cave, figurative cave, being forced into boldness when they're still feeling shy, telling a 2-4 child, just go play with the kids, just go outside and play, when they just kind of want to just be alone. And that can be really uncomfortable. Um, if it's like one thing here and there, no big deal. But if it's always happening to them, this can end up being like almost like a trauma, Um, third lines need to break the bond. And if they can't break a bond and are stuck and stagnant, or that, well, they can feel stuck or stagnant in a way. Uh, Also with third lines, third line's a martyr. So there can be like a martyr complex. If you just even take the names of these, the investigator, if you're not able to investigate, which means experiment, study, have a direct experience yourself, that can be disempowering. Hermit, force a hermit out of their cave. The martyr, that can almost be like too much of a martyr. Like, fourth line, externalization, opportunist. Fourth lines build their life upon their external foundation. So when there's some kind of damage or betrayal, someone, yeah, that can happen a million ways, but that can be very damaging for a fourth line because their psyche is built into their external foundation. So that can be a source of suffering for them. And most of these things we're looking at here are going to be in coordination with something else, with some kind of other trauma, with amplified by openness, something in the chemistry that's fragile that could accentuate these qualities. Not every fourth line is going to be damaged in the same way if there's a betrayal, but so obviously it's an individual case by case thing. Fifth lines are paranoid because they know that they're always being projected on as a savior or a heretic. So, and they can oftentimes go down long, windy roads that aren't theirs to go down because they succumb to the projections of others. A lot of this stuff is probably good to consider. I mean, if you're looking, most of the times we're trying to figure out this one person in our life or these few people in our life or the people we know, So a lot of this, take these elements and consider the first 7 years of their childhood. Because, thinking about fifth line children where the parents just see them as the savior, kind of, they've got it all figured out, or they're just perfect or whatever, that can be hard for fifth line children, because, oh, you're going to be a perfect little princess and you're going to be, and they just want to whatever, go play, build sandcastles or something, it's like, that's not their thing. And then they have to do that and become that and put on that mask and, cross of masks, we have to end up putting on all these masks for people. Sixth line beings, if they don't come off the roof, I mean, it's not like they necessarily have a choice, but I've seen this with some sixth line beings around the end of their their post Chiron phase. They don't want to live up to their role model potential, and they hide. And I feel like it can be a real source of suffering because they are well, that third line phase that they may have gone through in the first part of their life may have just been really harsh on them. So when they go up on the roof, they don't want to come back down. There can be this fear of coming back out because that third line phase, we know that 6 lines in the first part of their life are in a third line phase. It doesn't mean they're 3 2s or 4 3s. They're just in a third line phase. It's not like their profile changes. So they're 6-line beings in this getting banged, very, very sensitive in a way, but also getting banged up in this time. So a lot of 6 lines can have a really hard time making it to their Saturn return. So there could be a real I mean that's something I would look into, and this, and please take this very generally, but when I hear about or like when I do a reading for a 6-line being and I say, congratulations, you made it to 30 years old, I'm being partly serious, because they can get really banged up and not make it, whatever that looks like.